saying from Global Info Analytics, EIU, Afrobarometer, and the likes. We'll also be bringing regional breakdown of course, what Global Info Analytics in specific has been saying with regards to, how the 2024 election would pan out. I would, take you through a few of the issues. We'll be looking at the top issues for voters, the issues voters will be voting on. We'll be looking at the economy, job creation, education, healthcare, roads, taxes, corruption, petroleum prices, water, security, party member, sanitation, other, religion, and ethnicity. Apart from that, we'll also be looking at who has the competence, experience, and track record to better manage the current economic crisis if elected. We'll bring you a breakdown of that. Which of the following candidates do you believe understands and cares for the people of Ghana? We'll also bring you a breakdown and statistics, based on that. We'll also be looking at some changes in the polls of July to October 2024. And finally, we'll be bringing to you the presidential election on gender. My colleagues, Ruben Ado, who is an editor here at Pan-African Television, is right here with me in the studio. Ruben, how are you doing?
I'm fiddle as a fiddle.
Right. And also Greg Amwa. Greg Amwa is our parliamentary correspondent. He'll be taking us through the breakdown. Greg, how are you doing?
Feeling here to Justice.
What do we have today?
Right, so today we are going to do, as we said, an overarching look at what, for example, will inspire people to vote for a candidate or against a candidate. Some of the breakdowns as far as the regions are concerned. The regions have a trail. Some regions will always vote for a particular party. Others will swing. Others will vote based on issues. Then there's also the gender breakdown, which specific gender is voting for a particular candidate, and then which gender is not voting for that candidate. That will also form part of our breakdown as well. And then we'll also be going deep down into the swings. The swings have a role to play. And then also Global Info Analytics conducted a survey in July of this year.
Yeah.
And that gave more of a precursor to what the country should expect if elections were being held in July of that year.
As of July.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now in October, they held one for October. That's the month in which we've just been ushered into, and so we'll also be delving into that to also see the margins that these candidates are still chalking. Some have seen their votes dwindle, others are seeing their votes suffer an appreciation. Others are also seeing specific votes in specific regions suffer depreciation. They are depleting in those regions. So we'll be tackling those as well, so that viewers will have a further view of what to expect as the polls are saying as far as the 2024 elections are concerned, who is winning and who is winning where, and then whose votes are dwindling and which specific areas these votes are dwindling. So that is the overview of what we are going to be doing today on the show.
Let's bring to the attention of viewers that the margin of error for this report is plus or minus 2, and we are discussing that of the Global Info Analytics. Now, take us through the top issues for voters.
Right, so Justice, as I indicated earlier, the topmost issue, of course, these are issues of economy, jobs, education, healthcare, amongst others. Now, these are the issues that influences a person's vote. Some people are entrenched voters. They don't care the conditions of the country, whether they are good or bad. They are more likely than not to either vote for the candidate who has been fielded by their party or refrain from voting due to issues like apathy. But for majority of the voters in Ghana, they vote based on issues. The issue could be on the nature of the economy, issues of job creation. These things and the performance of government or otherwise influence how they vote. And then also the promises of an alternative party in waiting on some of these issues also influences how they vote. So let's run viewers through these issues. The first issue on our list is the economy. Now it shows that of the total registered voters, and according to the survey Global Info Analytics held 70% of Ghanaian voters are likely to be influenced by the economy. So the Ghanaian economy is going to be a key determinant as to the voting patterns as far as this year's election is concerned. So issues of DDEP, issues of agitations on the economy, the depreciation of the CD, the quagmire that we find ourselves in, the promise of government that it is abridging these issues, it is mitigating the suffering of the average Ghanaian, the recent info that the country's growth rate for this quarter is improving. These are issues that border on the economy, and the survey is saying that 70% of the voter population will vote based on economy. So meaning that which candidate they vote for or against will be based on the economy. So the government's performance in office, obviously, as far as the economy is concerned, will affect the candidate who is running on the ticket of the party who formed government. And then also the promise of the candidate who is running on the ticket of the party that formed government, as far as the economy is concerned, will also influence the voting patterns of people. So whether these promises, based on the track record of their tenure in office, their 8-year term in office, and then the promise of what is to come if he's giving the confidence of the people to continue on the mandate of the NPP, will be based on their performance as far as the economy is concerned. So as I said, when people cast their minds to DDEP, depreciation of the CD, growth rates, as far as these other issues, whatever confidence they have, 70% will be based on the economy. Now, the next item will be jobs. Now, job creation is always on the mouth of every party who wants to win power, and that influences the choices of voters, especially when the youth form a greater chunk of the population. They are the active workforce, and they are the ones also most often than not hit by issues like unemployment. And so you find that the youth who constitute a greater chunk of the population are going to vote for a candidate. Obviously, the issue of job creation, jobs, will be predominant in their choice of voting. So from economy, the issue will become jobs. And so also 62% will vote due to jobs. Now mind you, Justice, this is not a sum total of or an aggregation of how people will vote. These have been taken one by one. And so out of the total voter population, the polls are saying that 70% out of the total voter population will vote based on the economy. When it comes to jobs, it's saying that 62% of voters who go to the polls will also vote based on jobs. Now, when we come to issues of education, the state of education, government has introduced STEM education, free SHS, issues of school feeding program, amongst others. These will be influenced 48%. So if you take the issue of education, only 48% of the total voter population will vote based on education. Okay. So it means that people are more likely than not to vote on the economy first. And then the second item on their mind when they are going to the polls will be issues of jobs. Which of the candidates on the ballot has their interest at heart as far as job creation is concerned? That will be the second. Now, when it comes to education, which candidates' policies on education will influence their vote? Now, that is saying that only 48% of the population will be more or less influenced by issues of education when it comes to voting. Now, let's move on to healthcare, which is one of the primary concerns of every Ghanaian. Agenda 111 has come. We're hearing no beds have been to Kolebu. We've seen rife issues, elevators not working, and all these things. Only 25% out of the voter population will go to the polls and say that I'm voting for candidate A or B based on issues of healthcare, which candidates' policies sound or sit well with us as far as provision and accessibility to quality healthcare is concerned. And then roads, issue of roads, 24%. Now we know every government touts the achievements in the sector of roads. Interchanges they've built, roads they've built, routes they've been able to maintain, and all those things. It is saying that 24% of the Ghanaian population, as far as the people qualified to vote, will be influenced by issues of road. So we've been hearing cancellation of road tolls. We are hearing it will be coming back. The government says it is expanding the motorway, amongst others. The NDC are also giving a precursor to the roads they will construct, amongst others. It is saying that this campaign message on roads, only 24% of voters will be concerned with issues of roads. And we move to taxes. Now, there are three things that are certain.
Right.
Taxes form one of them. Taxes is one of the germane or cogent issues that is on the mind of every more or less adult Ghanaian, because it is normally you pay indirect taxes. But the people who bear the brunt the most as far as taxes are concerned are people who are in the active workforce, because they are the ones who are deducted monthly, you know, from whatever earnings they accrue from the work that they have done. And so it is saying that issues of taxes, VATs, the noises about this government imposing taxes, nuisance taxes, it is saying that when it comes to that issue, only 20% of the total voter population will be focused on the issue of taxes. And then we come to almighty corruption.
Right.
I mean, year on year, we are astounded by the revelations of the Auditor General's report as to the rot in public offices, the disdain with which public funds are being mismanaged, and we are always calling for the heads of persons in places of public offices who are more or less mismanaging the funds of Ghana. We hear always that government A is corrupt, Party B also throws another allegation that you are more corrupt than I am. This year, 2024 elections, the issue of corruption will only factor in 18% of the total voter population. Then we come to petroleum prices. Of course, whenever fuel prices are increased, it has a ripple effect, or it has a cascading effect on almost every product line in Ghana, from transportation to goods and services and everything, because petrol is almost used for the baseline of every activity in Ghana, because then almost every activity passes through transportation. Once it does that and there's an increment over there, people are more often than not also inclined to increase whatever products or services they are rendering. And so petrol prices form the baseline for most of the agitations we witness in Ghana. Now, this year, they are saying that only 10% of voters will have the issue of petrol prices when they go to the ballot. So as the person takes their ballot papers and go to the booth to vote, it is only 10% of voters who have petrol prices, saying that maybe this government has not tabled our concerns as far as petroleum prices are concerned. Maybe the objectives as far as the manifesto of Party A or B, as far as petrol price is concerned, sit well with us, and so based on that, we are going to vote for Party A or B. They're saying that only 10% will be concerned with this issue as far as voting this year is concerned.
But if you look at the petroleum prices, that may find expression in that of the economy.
Exactly.
Yeah, because anytime prices of petrol are high, or there's a hike in petrol prices or fuel prices, it affects a lot almost everything. So I do not even understand why he separated petroleum prices from that of the economy.
Well, I think he sought to do that because probably, this is my opinion, mostly when it comes to economy, we hear these people go about with words that the ordinary Ghanaian does not necessarily understand. So, for example, how many people in Ghana understand the essence of DDEP?
Right.
How many people? And so, if there's a breakdown, and then there's a further breakdown to ascertain how many people will go to the polls because they think that petroleum prices are an issue, and then which government's policies on petrol is much more alleviating. Only 10% of people will be concerned with that. So I side with you when you say that maybe majority of people will also factor in their concerns of petroleum prices on the overarching economy and its performance as far as a government or a party seeking for the vote of Ghanaians will be concerned. And so I side with you on that as well. Now, water. Yesterday, we went to a great length to discuss the issues of Galamsey and its repercussions on Ghana's water resources, and how in a few years to come we might have to import water.
The effect of Galamsey on distribution of water.
Yes, a lot of issues that borders on water. In recent weeks, we have seen protests, and it has been in media circles as far as water resources concerned. And it's saying that only 8% of people will go to the polls and will have issues of water in their mind. Which government or which party has the tendency to protect Ghana's water resources when they are voted into power? Only 8%. Now, security. You and I know that it is one of the most important issues as far as Ghana is concerned. You know, Ghana is relatively a peaceful country, but every now and then there are concerns about security, armed robbery attacks, blah, blah, blah. It is saying that only 5% of voters will go to the polls and will have issues of security on their mind. And then party member, a person will go to, obviously they'll go to the polls and then they'll vote based on their affiliation. But here he's saying that only 3%.
I have a little disagreement with that. Unless Musa Dankwa
comes on,
because you see, a lot of people vote based on their party affiliations. Whether the party is doing something right or wrong, they are ready to go. And so 3%
of people will go to the polls because they think, party will be. If a person, and we've seen that with the NDC and NPP, where they have entrenched voters. A large pool of the voter population are entrenched voters for either the NPP or NDC. That's how come we are even seeing a reflection of that in the parliamentary polls, where majority of, in fact, almost all but one seat was won on a ticket of an independent person, and even that person was a known NPP member who left because of some disagreement at the party level in the constituency. And so I think that's one area I'd want him to, give clarity on.
Well, he'll be here, God willing, Thursday. So when he comes, I mean,
sanitation.
We'll that proper.
Sanitation. The promise to make Accra the cleanest city in Africa. The fallout from there, the dredging of the Odona, flooding issues. Sanitation minister. The issues that arose from her office as she then was, and all those issues. We are saying that only 2% of voters will go to the polls and would want to vote based on the party whose policies on sanitation sit well with them. So that's one other thing that we should also look at. And then others. The others could mean any other ancillary reasons which could not be captured in this baseline, but will also influence the vote of people who go to the polls. It is saying here that it is only 2% of the voter population who go to the polls and have some other ancillary reason aside from this. I'm not seeing sports over here, so obviously sports can.
It could be part of the others.
Yes, the others. I'm not seeing it, so it might fall over here. I'm not seeing creative arts.
It could be part of the others.
I'm not seeing some other issues that maybe time may not permit us to elaborate on, but they will all fall under this baseline. And it's saying that only 2% of voters will go and then, would want to vote for a party based on, let's say, music, creative arts, sports, or some other issue that may fall under this. Religion. A lot of times, in fact, in this election, there has been talk about candidates going to church after church, mosque after mosque, shrine after shrine, seeking to bank on the, votes base or support base of a specific
we would
religion.
even not go far. We just saw the former president, who happens to be the flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, fellowshipping with the clergy this morning.
Yes.
I'm told Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, vice president and flag bearer of a New Patriotic Party, also went to a shrine the other time.
Yes.
But as far as I'm concerned, I saw him, at various churches, including the Pentecost Church of Ghana, where he declared that he's now Timothy. And then, he's a Muslim, so as for that one. So we've been seeing them moving from one religion to the other.
The polls are saying that only 1% of the voter population will go to the voting booth and say that I'm voting for candidate A or B because he comes from my religion.
Okay.
He probably serves the same deity as I do, or he has the same religious practices as I do. Only 1% of the voter population will go to the polls or will go to the voting booth and have that. And then ethnicity. That's one thing we've all criticized intensively, because we believe that it should form no basis for the voting pattern or whatsoever as far as Ghanaian politics is concerned. Because people should vote based on ideas, based on overarching policy, directive and other things. It is saying here that only 1% of voters will go to the voting booth and say that Party A is going to have my vote because the candidate or his running mate hails from my region or my tribe or whatsoever. We've in recent times heard parties or seen parties select officials based on ethnic or regional balances, saying that okay, because this region has our votes or this tribe has our votes, it is more likely than not that we at least nominate this particular official from there so that we can count on their votes. The polls are saying that only 1% of the voters will go to the booth and have the issue of ethnicity or whatever region they hail from.
So the issue for instance, the issue of the presidential candidate is coming from the north, so the running mate should be coming from the south.
It will only play 1% in the thinking of the voters when they go to the booth. So a lot of them will vote based on the economy.
Right.
A greater chunk will also vote on job creation. Quite a number of them will vote on issues of education, healthcare will form some base, road infrastructure will form quite some base as well, taxes, nuisance taxes, which government promises to consolidate these to alleviate the burden on Ghanaians, will also form a few. Corruption will also form 18%, petroleum prices.
But I have a problem with that of corruption.
Yes,
I have a serious problem with that.
I wanted it. I would have loved it to be in the north of 60, because of the fact that from 92, and this is not government or party specific, from 92 we have witnessed monumental corruption. We hear the reports every day. We hear humongous sums of money being siphoned from the national coffers by officials. We see the auditor of government
and
itself.
We've seen scandals upon scandals,
humongous amount of money. And so I'm quite astounded that only 18% of voters will go to the polls, and then we'll have issue of corruption reigning on their mind.
We'll interrogate that. We'll review that. If it to take us to step out there to gauge, the views of people, who will be voting, we'll do that. But corruption, at least, should be one of course. It should be one of the reasons why people choose who leads this country after 2024.
So
now let me come to Ruben. Ruben, your position on Greg. Let's go back to the first one. Your position on what Global Info Analytics is saying. It's saying that economy, 70% of people of electorates are going to be voting based on the economy. 62% are going to be voting based on job creation, education, 48%, healthcare, 25%, roads, 24%, taxes, 20%, corruption, 18%, petroleum prices, 10%, water, 8%, security, 5%, party member, 3%, sanitation, 2%, other, 2%, religion, 2%, and ethnicity, 2%.
Yes, I would seize this opportunity to delve into a few of them.
Okay.
he cited 5% for security.
Yeah.
And I beg to differ, because whether we like it or not, there seems to be public erosion of trust and confidence in security architecture. And I think it's one area we critically need to look at, because the safety and security of Ghana is paramount. We are a beacon of hope and an oasis of democracy in a volatile West African sub-region. But I think that when it's getting to elections, there are pockets of violence and intimidation recorded in certain parts of the country. Even when we had the last general elections, we were reliably informed that 8 people perished. And up till now, nothing has been done about it. There hasn't been a commission of inquiry set up to investigate the remote and immediate causes, and probably moving forward how we can avert a recurrence. As far back 2016, a sitting member of parliament was stabbed to death at his Shashi residence, J.B. Boachidan Kwaidu. It was an election year. Nothing seems to be done about it. Before that, in 2004, there was an incident where the Northern Regional Chairman of the CPP, Alhaji Samobila, died in custody under extremely controversial circumstances. As far back 1992, the NDC constituency chairman for the Efia-Kwezimintim constituency, Alhaji Moro Adam, was abducted from his home and set ablaze. He was flown to London for medical treatment, but unfortunately he couldn't survive. Then one which readily comes to mind, and I hope that it's still fresh in the minds of Guineans, happens to be the member of parliament for the Infantiman constituency, Akokwansa Hayford. He died as a sitting member of parliament in 2020. So the figure we see here is 5% for security. But like I cited earlier, there's this public perception about our security and safety as Guineans, and if we don't critically take a look at that area, things will get out of hand if the needful isn't done.
But Robin, in as much as security is that important, you've cited, some cases of insecurity issues. I mean, where very prominent people or persons have been killed, and all of that. But you would also agree that the Ghanaian electorate would prioritize, issues of economy and job creation, bread and butter issues to security. I don't know if it's a case that they do not see how important security is, but trust me, if the person is hungry, the person would obviously want to address bread and butter issues. And so whoever tells him that I'll be providing you milk and honey, the person would obviously go out there and vote for the person. If somebody comes and tells you that, listen, you are a graduate, you are a fresh graduate, you've been at home for like a year or two, you are not getting a job. There are people who have been at home for more than 5 to 10 years, they are not securing any reasonable job. And then somebody comes and tells you that if you vote for me and I come, I will give you a decent job, a reasonable job. I mean, who wouldn't do that? They will prioritize some of these things over security. Why do you think that we are more interested in the bread and butter issues than, our protection and safety?
Because government is entrusted with the responsibility of making sure that Guineans are better off. The only justification for being in power is to improve the living conditions of the masses. Nothing else matters. So at the end of the day, if people are going to vote solely on bread and butter issues and the economy is not in good stead, from 2017 to now, if our current debt stock has ballooned, you can attribute it to a plethora of reasons. It could be reckless and excessive borrowing on the part of government, and the fact that government has not been profligate so far as spending is concerned. Then you can shift issues of economy to job creation. Now, you realize that unemployment is a threat to public safety and security, because in a society where the majority are unemployed, they will be tempted to engage in all forms of social vices. And not only would they become a burden to society, but society would also struggle in trying to maintain public order. So job creation has always been one of the tasks government has always fulfilled, to make sure that majority of the citizenry, who are the youth, don't become a burden, because our population is youthful.
Well, if you look at job creation, for instance, that's at 2016. It was around, unemployment rate was around 14%. Mm-hmm. As I speak with you, it's even more than 18%. It's really a problem, because you have, you know, a whole lot of people graduating from the various universities we have in the country every year, and they come out without any job. I mean, you would obviously expect that anybody who promises the youth that I'll create more jobs so that you have a decent job to do, they'll obviously follow. And so it's really worrying. If you look at education, I personally agree with you that security should have taken center stage. Mm-hmm. You know, if you look at economic jobs, the next should have been security. But Ghanaians are also saying that, listen, education is that important. So we will look at the top three. You are looking at economic jobs and education.
Yeah, so if you have instances where the number of unemployed people in a country keeps plummeting, then it tells you that we are doomed as a country. And it shouldn't get to an extent where people would sit and drive in the comfort of their cars, and you see people attacking them, you know, just to deprive them of the little they have. So government should be up and doing, because if graduates are out of schools and they don't get, or they don't find jobs to do, it becomes a problem. It becomes a headache.
All right, I'll come back. Greg, why do you think that the economy has taken a center stage? The good people of Ghana would rather want to vote based on the economy than any other. Because 70%, some significant number of Ghanaians are looking for that the economy, they are looking for somebody who will make the economy better.
Justice, so I think the economy itself, standalone, is an amalgamation of about three of the issues over here.
Of course, taxes.
This one will fall under. Even jobs will fall under economy.
Taxes.
How many people are gainfully employed will determine the tax accrual of government at the end of the year, and also influence, for example, even how much government has to borrow to augment its budget. And so I think the economy more or less determines
the economy is everything.
Yes, it determines the mood of the country. And that's why year on year we've seen the campaign trends of various parties being geared towards which party has the, you know, capacity to spearhead economic transformation as far as the country is concerned. And also, even in this government, most of the issues that it has faced have been issues of the economy. Issues of the economy. The currency itself has had a part to play, you know, leading it to introduce the gold for oil deal amongst others.
We are talking about the exchange rates
itself.
We are talking about inflation.
Talking about food. Even in inflation, there's even food inflation as well. And then there are several other issues.
So if you look at inflation, for instance, this government inherited a 15.4% inflation. I mean, now we are hovering around 20 point something,
the 20s. In fact,
exactly.
It rose to the north of 50%. Yes, and so it tells you that a lot of people who bought the brand, I mean, persons who have saved for their entire life, for their entire working life, were told that they may not have access to the interest on their principal investments, because of the fact that government, you know, had hit a snap as far as the economy is concerned, and it may not be able to pay its debt to persons who had, you know, saved with it. And you know, government bonds, I mean, if I go back to my SHS days, my learnings in economics, government bonds are some of the safest instruments a person can invest in. And so when it gets to a point where government then has to eat into not only the interest but even the principal of persons who are saved with them as far as buying bonds is concerned, then it becomes an issue. And I believe that this will be on the minds of people, how the government has been able to alleviate these issues, and the cascading effect on their lives between 2022 and now will tell a lot as to how Ghanaians will vote. And so I'm not in any way shocked that a greater chunk of Ghanaian voters will vote based on issues of
if you look at the country's public debt, this government has ballooned the debt to an extent that
astronomically,
they took it from 122 billion Ghana cedis to now 760 something billion Ghana cedis. As I speak with you, every Ghanaian is owing as much as 22,076 Ghana cedis. I mean, that's mind-boggling, and it explains why a lot of Ghanaians would want to vote based on who manages the economy better.
Especially when, after the people went through the quagmire in 2022, they are going out to the polls, and then the cedi is not doing any better to the dollar, to the pound, to the euro.
Because you took the exchange rate from, I think as of 2016, it was $1 to 4 cedi 20 pesos.
Yes.
And then we are, after 8 years, after almost 8 years, you've taken it from 4.2 to 16.4, 16 point something.
In fact,
it went as far as 17 Ghana cedis.
Yes.
I mean, that's
and so when people, and you see the dollar also invariably affects everything in the country, because now even things that are not as a result of the dollar are experiencing an increase in price, because people are also
prices is one of those. Because you see, although the prices of crude may not be increased on the world market, but because
you need more dollars
because your currency is not stable, it may affect it, and
yes.
that shows at the pump prices. So when the drivers and all of that, they go,
and then also Justice, I think government's handling of the economy pre-COVID and then post-COVID will also be a determinant. Now, because I believe that government before COVID managed the economy properly. Many in the NDC believe that they were able to spear the economy at that time due to some austerity measures that were captured in the deal they had with the fund before they exited office. And so whatever government's experience or whatever benefits or gains government was able to chalk from the economy between 2017 and then the greater part of 2020 was as a result of the austerity measures that they had captured in whatever plan they went into with the fund, whatever homegrown policy they had entered into with the fund. And so the performance of the government post-COVID and pre-COVID are night and day. And now we are seeing the cedi. In fact, the cedi rose to a point where government had to then go around some institutions that were trading in currencies to ensure that they were not trading illegally, because then we heard that it was the black market that was influencing this. We believe that all these loopholes have been sealed, but the dollar is hovering between 15 and 16 cedis month on month.
I am not an economist, but that tells you, or that should tell you that obviously that wasn't the solution to the problem.
Exactly.
So we are an import-based country. As far as we continue to import without necessarily exporting anything, it tells you clearly that we'll still have these problems and all that.
And
but
so
I'm not an
government
economist.
also comes on board on that issue of import and tells you that that's why it brought 1D1F.
But how effective is this 1D1F?
So I think when Parliament met at the beginning of last month, one of the key issues was tax waivers. Then the NDC said there were about 450 million in tax waivers. Now you need about, then I think that at that time there was a $250 million loan agreement before the house. So they are saying that if you are going to take this in loans and you are giving this in waivers, it doesn't make sense. And that was one of the reasons why the NDC stood against these tax waivers for companies that were going to do 1D, 1F. The majority leader also argued fervently that he believed that if these tax waivers were granted, they were not coming in the way of giving direct money to private firms, but you are empowering them by cutting down on the cost they would have accrued by way of tax. And so these monies would then turn into more of credit for them. This credit will be used in investing into the business, expand the business, and then absorb the unemployed force that you have. And this will sort of mitigate issues of unemployment and will also accrue resources in taxes for government. These are two schools of thought that economists are divided upon. But the average Ghanaian is not concerned about the nuances of economy. That's why they voted for you. And so when you come back after 4 years to give additional reasons, ancillary reasons for which the economy is suffering in the downturn that it is, then it might influence what they vote, either for or against you. That is, if your policies sit well with them. You are saying COVID. Now, even after COVID, we've reeled, fine, let's say between 2021 and the tail end of 2020, no, let's say between 2020 and then the tail end of 2021, that was when COVID was at its apex. 2022, we saw one of the deepest trenches the country has ever been in as far as economy is concerned. What about the last 2 years? If nothing is an indicator, the dollar is not depreciating. The cedi rather is. And it's affecting every product or item line that the average Ghanaian has to spend money on.
But there are people who even believe that the argument of COVID being the situation where the reason why we are where we are today is a non-starter.
Yes.
Non-starter because look at the amount of money we have received in terms of COVID.
Yes.
Look at the taxes that Ghanaians have had to pay. Even after COVID-19, we are still paying COVID levy.
And also the damning report of the Auditor General on COVID-19 expenditure.
Exactly.
So all this paint a picture to people as to, then that's how come people don't even want to even accept the excuse of Russia, Ukraine.
Exactly. So people think that yes, there was COVID. COVID did not affect Ghana alone. It affected all other countries, including neighboring countries, Togo, Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast, and all of that. Today, if you go to Ivory Coast, they are not experiencing what we are experiencing. Fuel prices are low in Ivory Coast. In fact, inflation is that low in Ivory Coast.
Yes.
You understand? So why did they not suffer COVID-19? If you go to Togo, they are not buying fuel like we are buying it here. Inflation is down when you go to Togo. So did they not also suffer, COVID? Were they not affected? And so people, and I know some economists who acknowledge that yes, we've been affected. Yes,
absolutely.
But you cannot say that the problem in which we are, is as a result of COVID-19.
It's obvious. Yes. And so
I know a lot of economists who have that view.
Yes. And so I'm not shocked that we're witnessing some of these numbers as far as the voting patterns will be concerned.
Let's move to, who has the competence, experience, and track record to better manage the current economic crisis if elected? What is the chart saying?
And so for voters who go to the polls to vote this year, the charts are saying that the green line is for the NDC's candidate John Dramani Mahama. It seems that 46% of voters have belief in JM as far as his competence, experience, and track record to manage the current economic crisis is concerned. Dr. Mahmoud Baumia in the blue margin has 36% trust, confidence with respect to his competence, experience, and track record in managing the economy. Alan Kwadwo Kyerematen of the Movement for Change has 4% of this trust. Astonishingly, Nana Kwame Bediako Cheddar of the New Force has 5%, 1% more than Alan Kwadwo Kyerematen.
I would vehemently disagree with this poll. That Nana Kwame Bediako, could be trusted in managing this economy better than Alan Kwadwo Kyerematen. I vehemently disagree.
Well,
And I have my reasons anyway.
Okay,
yes.
okay. And then others, 2%. So the other candidates on the block, the likes of Madame Ekuyadonko and others, I think they are just 2% of the voters who think that they have anything to do as far as their competence, experience, and track record in managing the economic crisis is concerned. Then 7% have lost hope in every candidate on the ballot because they don't believe none of them possesses the track record, experience, and competence.
Their case.
Yes.
They can.
Yes. And so just I think the margin is between John Dramani Mahama and DMB. Now, John Mahama has a 10% lead over DMB as far as public confidence or voter confidence in his competences,
so
experience, and track record.
What it means is that more Ghanaians have trust in John Mahama
to steer the Ghanaian economy from the crisis it is in, as opposed to Bawumia. And it tells you how Bawumia as a candidate is maybe suffering from the failings or otherwise of the government of the day in office.
Credibility crisis.
Yes, owing to the fact that he was also one of the faces of the party in opposition as far as economy is concerned.
After 2015, 2016, we saw what
his lectures became akin to the Bible as far as because people had so much belief and derived so much confidence from that, and so I think
he earned the name economic whiskey through those lectures.
And so I think whatever
lectures that he was holding,
whatever margin there is between he and JM, and whatever level or percentage of trust voters have in him is as a result of the failings or otherwise of this government.
So the trust Ghanaians have in him, has dwindled.
Exceptionally.
Exactly. So it looks like instead, if they had performed better, he should have gained the trust of Ghanaians beyond what they even have for John Dramani Mahama. But clearly, the trust has dwindled. Rula, do you agree with the polls? I mean, as to who can best manage the economy, who has the competence, experience, and track record to better manage the current economic crisis if elected in the 2024 election?
Well, it's subject to review. So its validity will be best determined when Mr. Musa Damka shows up.
So we want your opinion on what is there.
You want to diplomatic.
I will try as much as possible and address it the way I possibly can. It says 46 for Mr. John Dramani Mahama of the opposition NDC and 36 for the incumbent, who is the flag bearer of the ruling or governing NPP. So I'm looking at Mr. Mahama deputizing late Professor Mills. Then from the time Mills died in 2012 till 2017, when he relinquished or ceded power to Mr. Kufuor. Under the Mills presidency, Ghana recorded a growth rate of 13.6%. That's if my memory serves me right.
Okay. And
it was the highest recorded in the country's history at the time. Production of cocoa also reached 1 metric tons. So post Mills, now Mills dies, Mahama takes over. Mahama said he was going to invest in jobs and the economy, and we saw that in the area of infrastructure.
Again, it was under Mills that we experienced a single-digit inflation for a very long time.
In fact, at the point, I think the World Bank named Ghana as the fastest growing economy. Or the best performing economy around the Mills era.
The Mills presidency. So post Mills, Mahama takes over. He said he was going to invest in jobs and the economy. We saw that there were remarkable strides in terms of infrastructural development. But one critical sector of the economy which affected the Mahama administration happened to be the energy sector, because we were reeling from intermittent power cuts, and it became an albatross hanging around his neck. And Ghanaians didn't spare him. I mean, from the rich...
But Dumso, let's admit that Dumso wasn't the creation of Mahama.
Of course it wasn't.
Dumso has been in the system. Even under former President John Ejekum Kufuor, we experienced Dumso.
Yes, so he came to inherit it, but with the assurance that he was going to do something about it. It became a seasonal problem, and it affected his chances going into the 2016 elections. Then, Dr. Bawumia comes on board
In fact, it was under John Dramani Mahama that we created the ESLA, the Energy Sector Levy. You know, that seeks to take care of, you know, the problems we are encountering within the sector.
Not forgetting of the Ameri and the car.
He promised. At the time, I think Dr. Kwabena Donko promised that they were going to fix Dumso once and for all. He put his ministerial position on the line.
That's right. And he did. There were some timelines when they weren't able to meet the timelines.
But even with that, Dumso was actually resolved before they left power. Otherwise, the vice president wouldn't have sat on a sister station and said that Mahama does not deserve credit for solving Dumso. It was his own creation.
Yes.
So let's not make it look like Dumso was a creation of John Dramani Mahama and all of that. It was quite unfortunate that it was under his watch that we experienced it for a very long time.
It's been a recurring problem. I mean, from the time of Rollins till now. But you know, Ghanaians and sometimes the way we perceive things. So Dr. Bawumia, the father of economics, sequel to Adam Smith, organized his lectures, symposia, and caught the attention of Ghanaians because he was deemed an economic waste kid. Now he comes into the fray and realizes that uneasy lies the head, that wears the crown. When you sit on the fence, it's easy to criticize those in power. But once you are given the nod, then you realize that governance is a complex process, that it will take years for you to really get the economy back on track. And as it stands now, the vice presidents have tried his bit, but as to whether he's a winnable and credible candidate, I'll leave it for the good people of this country to decide on December 7th. Competence, experience, and track record to better manage the current economic crisis we find ourselves. Ghanaians have felt and tasted Mahama, right? Ghanaians have also felt and tasted Bawumia. So you are trying to make a comparison between the two.
Because here we can do a comparative analysis.
So you had
under Professor Mills, John Dramani Mahama, and under John Dramani Mahama, Emisata.
Good. So
inflation. I just told you that inflation, we experienced the longest ever single digit inflation under Professor Mills. And at that time, it was John Mahama who partnered him. Now he had the opportunity. And of course, he left inflation at 15.4%. Today, can we say same? The people who trumpeted that, listen, give me the nod, give me the opportunity, I'll be able to do it better, I'll bring it down. So one would have thought that this dispensation, the current administration, would have brought inflation down or stabilized it at 15.4%. You don't have any business carrying it from 15% upwards. So if we are doing a comparative analysis, then obviously Ghanaians would have chosen John Dramani Mahama. They would have trusted John Dramani Mahama to Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, because mind you, at the time it wasn't President Akufo-Addo who was moving from one university to the other to hold those lectures. It was Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia who was doing so. True or false?
Of course. And once he chairs the economic management team, then it means that he had much on his shoulders. But he was given the opportunity, and now Ghanaians are beginning to lose that credibility they had in him. So it will play a crucial role heading into the December 7th
We'll be
elections.
moving on quickly to the other one. But Greg, do you remember should I say the infamous statement, or the famous statement, which? You can't do politics with the economy if the fundamentals are weak. The exchange rate will expose you.
He comes back to say it is worth knowledge. If you are saying that's the reason why the exchange
let's move to the regional breakdown. Let's move to the regional breakdown, Greg.
All right.
So viewers, you are still watching Election Focus right here on Pan-African Television with me, Justice Appiah, and my colleagues Ruben Addo and Greg Amwa. We are bringing you, the regional breakdown of what the polls are saying. We are looking at that of Global Info Analytics. We'll be bringing you that of Fitch, Afrobarometer, EIU, and the likes. I learned recently one was also conducted, at the presidency. I mean, what has been the outcome of that particular poll? We'll be bringing you that as well. But Greg, let me come to you.
Right, so let's take the Greater Accra region first, where candidate John Dramani Mahama of the NDC garnered 1,326,596 votes, representing 51.04% of the total valid votes cast. President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, then flag bearer of the NPP in the 2020 election, garnered 1,250,174 votes, representing some 48.1% of the total valid vote cast. That was in 2020. Now let's deal with how the polls have been saying this year as far as global info analytics is concerned. As I intimated earlier, there have been 2 polls. One was conducted in July and then one for October. And so the green margins are for, or the green charts are for the polls held in July 2024 as far as the Greater Accra region is concerned, and then the blue margins are the polls conducted for the month of October for the Greater Accra region. And so in July, JDM had 64% of votes in the Greater Accra region, 54% of the votes in Greater Accra region. In October, the polls are saying that his margins have dwindled by about 5% to 59%, and so he's still in quite a lead as far as the region is concerned. If the polls are anything to go by, he will win by 59%. That's what the October polls conducted by the Global Info Analytics are saying. Now, when it comes to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, in July 2024, he had 31% of the votes in the Greater Accra region. 31% of the votes in the Greater Accra region. Now, the polls conducted for the month of October is saying that he has had a 2% net gain as far as these metrics are concerned, and now he's somewhere around 33%. And so, even though he has had a net gain of 2%, he's still way behind candidate John Dramani Mahama's, estimated percentage of 59 as far as the 2024 general elections are concerned. Now, Alan Kwedu Chemantin, as of July in the Greater Accra region, had 3% of the votes. In October, he's still on 3% of the votes. And Kwame, as at July, had 2% of the votes in Accra, but as at October, he has also had a 3% net gain, and now he's sitting on some 5% of the votes in Greater Accra. Astonishingly, all other candidates have 0% of the vote. This does not mean that they will not have any vote, but whatever votes they accrue will not even cross the 1%.
So, what it means is that JDM, has reduced by 3 percentage points. Five
actually, because
so 59-64.
So the green is for July,
Okay.
and then the blue is for October. So in July, he had 64.
Okay, so 5 percentage points.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
all right, and then Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has increased his by 2%.
2%, yes, yes.
Points. Okay,
and so
right.
let's quickly go back to what the 2020 election was, because in 2020 he won by 51%. That's against NPP's 48%. And now he's saying that so it means if the polls are anything to go by, he will have probably a net gain of 8%. If the October polls are anything to go by, he will have a net gain of 8% for the, because now he's leading by 59% of the votes. Now let's move over to...
So Greater Accra region, that was 34 out of 34 constituencies.
Yes.
Okay.
Now
which constituency is that?
Now this is the Ahafo region.
Okay.
It was one of the newly created regions.
So it has 6 constituencies.
Yes. Now, candidate Akufo-Addo won with 145,025 votes, representing 55% of the total valid vote cast, whereas John Dramani Mahama had 116,371 of the votes, representing 44.1%. Now, these are the polls for the Ahafo region as far as the 2024, July 2024 and then October 2024 polls of Global Info Analytics are saying. Now, JDM as at July 2024 had only 30% of the vote in the Ahafo region. Now, in October, he's witnessed a 9% net gain.
Okay.
And he has shot up to 39%. of the total valid votes in the Ahafo region. Candidate Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia had 51% of the vote in Ahafo in July. Now in October, he's having 58% of the vote in Ahafo. So it means that whereas JDM had a 9% net gain, DMB had a 7% net gain. So unlike one candidate eating into the base of the other candidate, both candidates have seen their base grow remarkably. But something astonishing is happening over here. Alan Kweju Chematin, as at July 2024, had 8% of the votes in Ahafo. He has dwindled quite astonishingly to 1% of the votes.
What is happening? Is it the case that they are not storming that region? Is it that they are not campaigning over there? What is happening?
It might be down to that, and also it might also be down to the fact that both these candidates are out muzzling them in that region, because both of them are appreciating. Ordinarily, we would have seen one of them gain and then one lose. Now, when both of them are having a net gain of 9 and 7 respectively, it tells you that someone else is at the suffering end of the numbers. Now, Justice, let's take this into perspective. DMB as at July had 51.
Yeah.
In October, 58. 7% margin. AKK, Alan Kweju Chematin, has 8. In October, he has 1. 7% net loss. So the numbers are speaking a language that, on a face value, it tells you that maybe in the Ahafo region, which is one of the strongholds of the NPP, DMB might be eating into the votes of Alan Kweju Chematin. JDM might be also banking on votes from that aspect. And so I don't know whether it's down to the party.
I think then he might be eating into that of the others. Check the others for
yes,
for July.
The others also had 9. Yes, very good, very good. Especially when Cheddar also had 2%, it dwindled to 1. The others had 9. Now they have 0. It tells you one thing, that when it comes to Ahafo region, both two leading candidates are leaving no stone unturned. Their campaign is gaining massive votes to the extent where it is eating into the votes.
So my observation is that
candidates,
if you take the two leading candidates, nobody is eating into the other, but rather they are eating into the
lesser
exactly the smaller, that of the
yes,
smaller parties.
Yes. Now, so let's go back to 2020 and then do something. The NPP won with 55% of the votes there. Now, in this year, it is estimated that they will still get 58.
Yeah.
And so it shows that for the Ahafo region, there will be an increase in the vote margins that the NPP will get as far as that region.
Check that
is
of
concerned.
the NDC.
Now,
in
the
2020.
NDC had 44. This time they are going to, if they post anything to go by, they will have some 39. Some 39. And so it shows you that the NPP is performing well in Ahafo more than the
so it
NDC.
means that the NDC has a lot more work to do.
In Ahafo. But it's not shocking because Ahafo, even when it was part of the Brong Ahafo enclave, the region, you'd find that the Ahafo part always votes for the NPP. And then what we have now as Bono East also used to vote for the NPP. The Bono region used to vote, that is areas, Sunyani, Wenchi, and these areas used to vote for the NPP. And then you have the Nkranzes, the Techimans, which now form what now is Bono East region, vote for the
NDC.
Yes, and NDC.
Now let's move to the next.
And so I don't know if Ruben will have any.
Anyway, Ruben, your thoughts, your comments on this.
So Ghanaians will repose their confidence in a candidate who says, "I care for you," like late President Mills of Blessed Memory. And from the statistics we just saw on air, the Greater Accra, which obviously is the capital, then we move to the other regions. I think that if you take the Greater Accra, for instance, whoever gets to rule or govern Ghana deems Accra as the capital. So much focus or attention is given to the capital city in terms of development. Under the watch of President Akufo-Addo, he said Accra will become the cleanest city. So issues of sanitation remains a critical one, but looks like much has not been done about it. There have been issues about overcrowding. There have been issues about moves to move the capital elsewhere because, like I said, Accra is densely populated, and you have a chunk of people moving in, and as a result of that, it's affecting those who inhabit certain portions of it. So there are a plethora of issues, and I think that with that of Greater Accra, the dynamics might change. The dynamics might change heading into the 2024 elections.
And so, Ruben, to give a little perspective to the analysis we just did, this is the voting trend of the Ahafo region. Now, you'd learn that the only time the NDC won the region was in '96.
Okay.
When they won by 57% of the votes. Now, the NPP from 2000 to 2020 have consistently won the region, and they have not won with anything less than 50% of the total valid votes.
Okay. So.
In fact, their lowest has been 50.8 in 2012.
Okay.
And so, I don't think it's quite shocking to see that DMB is not only winning Ahafo, but he's having an appreciation in the votes, percentage of votes that candidate Akufo-Addo, as he then was in 2020, had in that region. And so I think that is...
And I think when it comes to the regional breakdown, the inhabitants of the region might consider certain things. Let's take the northern region, for instance. In '93, when late President Rawlings won the World Food Prize and donated $50,000 as seed money for the construction of UDS, people in that region hit the sigh of relief, because to them, they had a higher institution of learning which could absorb people who were deemed admissible, and once they are done, they would, graduate and become competitive on the job market. So that, for me, was really refreshing or significant. And I think that some of the regions might want to consider these things when they are electing a candidate of their choice. But for the issue of one region being a stronghold of one party or the other, I think that heading into the 2024 elections, the dynamics might change, because now people are becoming more discerning, and they are voting based on bread and butter issues and not issues like religion, ethnicity, and whatnot. So it's likely we might see the narrative changing this time round.
Right, Greg, let's move to the next constituency. Which one is that?
Next region. The next region is the Ashanti region, known as the World Bank of the New Patriotic Party. So
they have 47 constituencies in that region.
Candidate Akufo-Addo had 1,793,773 votes. That is 71.6% of the total valid vote cast. Candidate John Dramani Mahama had 652,962 votes, representing 26.08%. And just as for emphasis, the NDC's John Dramani Mahama garnered more votes in the Ashanti region than in the Volta region. And so it tells you the significant numbers that the Ashanti region has when it comes to voter population in Ghana. Now let's look at what the polls are saying for that region. Now in 2024, July and October, the first polls in July had John Dramani Mahama at 22%. 22%. Now in October, the polls are saying John Dramani Mahama is still on 22%. Mahmoud Bawumia from the NPP, Doctor, His Excellency, 66% in July of this year. Fast forward to October, he's still sitting on 66. So it tells you that for the two leading candidates in the election, as far as the Ashanti region is concerned, their minds are made up. That's how come we are seeing that there is no appreciation or depreciation in their support base or their approval ratings in that region between July and October. Now, Alan Shemartin, whose base is also in the Ashanti region owing to his connection to that region, as at July had 8% of the votes in July in that region. Fast forward to October, he has had a 4% net loss, and now he's sitting on 4% of the vote in that region. We move to Nana Kwame Bediako Cheddar, your man, Justice, who had 4% of the votes as far as the polls were concerned in July 2024. In October, he has had a net gain of 3%, and now he has some 7% of the vote. The others were on 1%. Fast forward to October, they are still on 1%. So, Justice, I would like to take you quickly back to the Ashanti region's voting trend. They won by 71%, overwhelmingly 71% of the vote. Now this time the polls are saying that DMB will have some 66%. Now JDM back then had some 26%, and so both JDM and the NPP, that's the NDC and NPP, are having dwindling fortunes in the Ashanti region. And I think we would like to see clarity from Musa why a region, because one would have thought that if the NPP's vote is dwindling, ordinarily it should have witnessed an appreciation of votes for the NDC. But this time the NPP's vote have dwindled, some about 5%, the NDC about 4%, and so
in my mind, you cannot take away the Alan Shemartin factor, then Nanakwam Bediako factor.
Of course.
He has appreciated, by some percentage, and of course he's now, I think, by 3 percentage points. And so he initially was at 4%, now he's at 7%. You could see that his votes in the Ashanti region are appreciating. Alan Shemartin used to be at 8%. I think he's has reduced to 4%. But still, that could be the reason why we would not see any significant, increase in that of the NDC and then the NPP, because these people who are also in the race, I'm sure they are natives. Votes. Yeah, exactly. They are natives of the Ashanti region, and so you would have expected that there may be. They may garner some votes from that particular region. So
and that's
what I'm thinking.
That tells you that there might therefore be some apathy.
Yes, again, there may be voter apathy.
Yes, and that is to account because ordinarily the NPP is expected to win massively over there. In fact, in every election, the Ashanti region is one of the regions that we look at. The voter region because of the NDC's connection over there. But the Ashanti region, not only because of the NPP's connection, but also because of the numbers. Because sometimes, even if the NDC wins astonishingly, overwhelmingly in the voter region, their fortunes are better augmented by how many votes they are able to snatch from the NPP in the Ashanti region. And so for a time where they are going into an election and you are seeing a decline in the vote of the NPP, then that gives the NDC some joy. But when you find out your vote has also dwindled by some 4%,
it looks murky.
So this is the
2020.
chart.
So if you look at 2020, President Akufo-Addo, had a loss of, is it minus 3.5%?
Yes, he had a net loss.
Yeah, he had a net loss of 3.5%. Is it minus 3.5%?
Minus
3.5%.
Yes, because even though even though his votes shot up about some 100%, the percentage of votes dwindled by 4% from the votes he
and if
got
you look at that of the
2016.
NDC, I'm even interested in the losses and then that of the gains. So if you look at the NDC had a 3.5% gain. You know, if you check that of the NDC over there.
So Justice, his votes dwindled by some 100,000 votes. Some 100,000 votes. That was a mistake. 100,000 votes. And so you see that even though he had an appreciation by almost 100,000, his percentage reduced. Now the NDC over here, they garnered 497,000. That's
in
below
2016.
Yes, but in 2020 they got 652,000. Significantly, and so there was a net gain of 3.5 because their percentage rose from 23% to 26%, and so they garnered 3.5. Now let's put that region into perspective.
Okay.
Now in '96, the NPP, of course, the NPP has won that region. Now in '96 they got 65%, the NDC got 32%. In 2000, NPP 74%, and they won that election. Then NDC 22. Now in 2004, they appreciated that percentage 77. The NDC depreciated 21. 2008, they lost that election. The NPP still got 72. The NDC 26. 2012, it went down a bit because the NDC also won the election. 70%. The NDC 28. And so I think the best performance of the NDC in their region has been in '96 when they got 32%.
What of '92? Because there was no NPP representation.
Yes. Now in 2016, the NPP got 76.3, the NDC 23%. In 2020, NPP 72, and then the NDC garners 26. And so, if we are going back, the lowest record of the NPP had been 65.
But mind you, we are dealing with the presidential. The producer just prompted me that in '92, presidential, they contested. It was a parliamentary that they did not contest. So they in '92, if NDC won the Ashanti region, then mind you, they had they were in the race with regards to the presidential. Let's get that corrected.
And so that is the margin, and so the NPP is always expected to win the region, but they're not just expected to win. They're expected to win convincingly, because the margins they are able to win by determines the overall margin they're able to get. The margin NDC is able to garner, and the appreciation of votes they're able to garner as well determines whether or not they also win the election. Because the numbers alone over there will trounce the strongholds of the NDC. And so if the NDC is expected, especially in 2020, the NDC won 9 regions. The NPP won 7, I think. At the end of it all, the NPP won by 500,000 votes. Now, just look at the vote margin between the two candidates. The NPP won with 1.7 million. The NDC gets 652,000. At the end of it all, the NPP wins the election itself with 500,000 plus votes. So assuming the margins of the NPP dwindled any further in 2020, by let's say even 300,000, it would have an effect on the overall votes they are able to accrue around the country, and that will affect their fortunes in the election. So the Ashanti region is not a place to be played with as far as the
Greg, we have just 10 minutes left. I think we need to move on to another region and then see, you know, what those regions also have, you know, to offer.
And so let's move to the Bono East region. That's my region.
Okay.
Right. The Bono East region. So the polls are saying that as at July 2024, JM had 53% of the votes. In October, he has 55%. And so he has had a 2% net gain over there. DMB at 29% as at July. In October, he has suffered a 1% net loss. And so he has 28. Alan Shematin had 10% in October, he has 6. Nana Kwame Bediako had 6 in October, he has 9. The others had 1 in October, they have 3. Justice, let's now see the voter margin over there. After 10 out of the 11 were declared, JDM had 229,530, 54%. And then Nana Akufo-Addo has 185,885, 44.2. And so if JM won with 54, he's expected to have 55 now. So he's at a 1% net gain as far as the Bono East region is concerned. Justice, your comments on this?
Well, I don't really have enough to say on this. I know that the Bono East region is a territory for the National Democratic Congress. I think they've won that region over the years, and so I'm not expecting anything to change significantly. It's just like how the people of Ahafo also really vote for the New Patriotic Party. If you go to the Ashanti region, the pattern is the same. Obviously, no matter what you do, they will vote for the New Patriotic Party. I feel that, that is exactly what we are seeing here. Both parties, the NDC and NPP, have their strongholds, So I feel that 2024 obviously would show. But what I want us to take notice of is about Musa Dankwa's, his research and then his polls. Consistently, he has proven that his polls are not to be toyed with or joked with. If you do so, you laugh at the wrong side of your mouth. He conducted a poll for the MPP primaries. I think, the outcome was very close to that of what he did. He conducted several polls. They were all very close. And so I read some articles where the New Patriotic Party would want to rubbish some of these polls and all of that. I would advise that instead of rubbishing the poll, they should rather take it serious and work, at those regions and constituencies where, they are behind, to, appreciate their votes or gain some votes even before December 7.
Right, so quickly, let's run through the Bono East region from 96 to 2020. As you can see on the screen, the NDC has swept that region, and so it's not shocking enough that they are expected to still maintain that region. Now let's move over to another region. That's the Bono region.
Yeah,
that also carved out of the Bono Ahafo region. Now JDM in July of this year was garnering some 45% in the Bono region. Now in 2024 October as well, he has shot up to 6 a net gain of 6%, and now he has 51% of the vote. DMB had 47% in July. He has dwindled to 36%. That is almost 9% net loss. Alan Chematin had 4%. He has shot up to 7% in October. In July, Nana Kwame Bediako had 4. In October, he has shot up to 5. And then the others had 0 in July. In October, they have shot up to 2% of the vote. Now, Justice, let's look at how that region voted in 2020. Nana Akufo-Addo of the NPP won that region with 292,545, representing 58.2%, whereas JM of the NDC got 203,009 votes, representing 40%. And so when we go back to the estimations for this year, 58% to some 36%. That is quite glaring and shocking, from 58 to 36, and then the NDC from the 40s to 51. It shows you that their fortunes are growing in that region. Now, Justice, let's go over to how the Bono region has been performing. How the Bono region has been performing in the polls. And so the Bono region. the Bono region, how they have been performing as far as the NPP and NDC are concerned. So the only time, okay, so NDC won in 96, NPP has won in 2000, 2004, 08, 12, 16, and 2020. So they have won it for the past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times as far as Ghanaian elections are concerned. But the polls are saying that that region might flip to the NDC this year. They might flip. If the polls are anything to go by, the Bono region will be flipped by the NDC. Justice, your comment on that?
Well, I think that once we get Musa Dankwah on Thursday, he would tell us the reason why this time around, I mean, the region is likely to flip, to the National Democratic Congress. But if you ask me, I think that the general economic situation would be one of the reasons why the people of the Bono region may want to vote for the former president. And then, of course, other factors mentioned by Musa Dankwah, like job creation, roads. I don't know, how their road networks are, but I feel that one of the main reasons why the people of the Bono region would want to vote against this government is because they would want to express their content with how the economy has been managed, basically. Ruben, I don't know if you share same sentiments.
Because I know the Bono region to be the breadbasket of Ghana. So per the analysis Musa Dankwah is saying, if it flips, then I'm sure we want to change the narrative this time round.
You have just in 1 minute.
I don't know why this time the narrative would obviously change, but if this is anything to go by, then I'm sure they would want to experiment with the NDC.
Right, Greg, I think that this is what time will allow us on the program. Thank you so much, Ruben. Ruben Ado is a news editor here at Pan-African Television. Also, Greg Amwa, who is a parliamentary correspondent. Make a time with us tomorrow. Tomorrow we are coming your way with community engagement. So we'll be back here, God willing, tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. Have a good afternoon.
Fix My Ride Company Limited makes customers feel good and proud. Fix My Ride Company Limited has experts who fix accident cars, making them look like brand new cars. They provide services such as engine tuning, overhauling, bodyworks, oven spraying, air conditioning service, upholstery, electrical works, automatic gearbox repairs, maintenance, and all general car servicing. Fix My Ride Company Limited also has towing cars.
Truly African.
How can we have some local fast food? Papa, me again. Yes, we are. Me quite you, ma'am. Who hear me? Me and sent my friend doctor when I'm crossing over. See what we swear.
She has malaria.
Malaria. Oh, what they say with the router? Me copy the absence. A draw in a friend router mixer. You come and read a drawer and running router. So.
Gap trap and the draw crew abaso body assay. Wabo Ruta mixture abaso. Ruta natural products in one Ruta mixture. Yeah, you could see a trick. Ruta tonic and the Ruta life for a who a finish radi bunny, a fin pedium. Let's support the immune system. Ruta de Obiasia, FDA, I did drinking crap to you.
Ah, Auntie Essie. Not then I won't know what time over me one money my busa.
Auntie Emma, the patch or maybe a school a university. Nascania 2005. And yet they are many. To my even to my summit, the brown up paper big crack. No, the family.
Oh, yes, men's Fantoman go to fee. And to want to say John Dramani Mahama. And the NDC for say, Senamia Dona Gana for Twabamana. Waba, Aba University via Technical University, College of Education, Nursing Training, woman in academic fees for first year. And you're free. No, yes.
Adam, how did it? I'm not doing another matter than that.
Auntie Essie. Hey, share a BM was say, and can they bossiana, not a bow or ma or more to a school so.